I think prior to OnlyFans, men were the first people to defend sex work and the sexualization of women. But as soon as women started turning like 7 figures off of OnlyFans and going on podcasts and bragging about like all the rappers in their DMs, all the fact that they're buying houses off of it, now men have this like victim mindset. Now they're talking about like the erosion of the social fabric and how it's like the fall of the West and stuff.
These questions about choice need to be complicated because for a lot of women, a platform like OnlyFans contributes to the further sexualization of women, and that really takes us back.
They all bargain individually for what they do and don't want to do. They're making a choice, they choose their customers. I mean, this is a new thing that's available to women and that women are choosing to avail themselves of these opportunities.
I want to sort of almost backtrack to what it is about erotic power, and I would say specifically female erotic power, that is, and the question that I've been asked to put to you all is, what is it that we fear about it? But I would almost say what makes it such a hot topic, and has been for as long as I've been on the planet and a feminist, but for a very, very long time. And perhaps, Catherine, you could answer that. You answered it partially in your first response, but would you like to expand on that?
Well, the key thing is that erotic power amongst women has an enormous value and importance and influence because men value it so highly. And yet, at the same time, men are paying more to men who score high on erotic power, who are very good looking, have good bodies, very charming. Robert Redford, who died recently, is just one example, who made millions. George Clooney makes millions from being very attractive and a good actor as well. The trouble is, and David Beckham, he makes millions from being very attractive as well as being an athlete and so on. Cristiano Ronaldo is another one. Men are making millions from their erotic power. And women are not making millions unless they are people like Kim Kardashian, who has managed to monetize her good looks, unless they are sex workers or working in the sex entertainment industry where they have learnt to monetize it. And the problem is women don't monetize their talents. It's not the only talent they have, obviously. Intelligence and education and all the other things still matter. But there is this one extra talent that has been humiliated and belittled by men because they don't want to pay for it. They want it to come free for men, and that's why, in a sense, men are afraid of erotic power so long as it's women's erotic power. They're not worried about their own because they know they can monetize it, but they do not like having to pay women for sexual entertainment. And one of the conclusions that I have been drawing from my research in this book and the other one, The New Rules, is men are going to have to pay a hell of a lot more for sex and sexual entertainment. I mean,
but they are paying. That is the thing.
Begun to pay enough.
Right, so they're not paying enough.
Pay enough.
Okay.
A lot more is coming.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that it's coming?
Because women are going to wake up. I think my book helps here. We're going to wake up to the fact that what they've got is worth a hell of a lot more than men have ever been prepared to pay in money, in respect, or in cooperation, or in anything else that they offer women. And they're going to have to pay a lot more in the future.
Okay, that's an interesting, I had never thought of that. Minna, what about you? What do you think is the basis for this fear of women's erotic power? Or do you think there is a fear?
Absolutely, of course there is. And I agree with Catherine and many of the points she raised. I mean, there's a fear of female erotic power because it's something that men want and need. Because there's a fear of all kinds of any kind of power that is attached to women. There's the fear of, women having intellectual power, which is why women were prevented from educational institutions. Same with economic power or political power. There's a huge fear of all these things, but there's a very direct and targeted fear of female erotic power, and I think it is because it's something that men want and need. I think also, if women move from being sexual objects to sexual subjects, which in a sense is what Catherine is saying as well, and Farha. That means in effect that this war that the patriarchy wages against women has been won by women. And so there's a lot of investment in preventing that from happening.
Farha, you, I guess, have lived experience of this, of that sort of contact point with men and erotic power. How do you want to answer that question?
I agree a lot with Catherine. I think a lot of it comes from financial envy, especially doing OnlyFans. It's interesting because I think prior to OnlyFans, men were the first people to defend sex work and the sexualization of women. I remember being like 10 years old and going to my older brother's dorm room, and his roommate had this poster above his bed, which was a very popular meme in guy culture at the time, which was this homely looking feminist holding a sign outside of a Hooters that says women are not decoration, and then beside her a bunch of hot Hooters girls holding a sign saying some, and the joke was supposed to be like, oh, the feminist is just too ugly to be a Hooters girl, so she's protesting it. And that was like a very viral meme that people would make all the time. When women would protest like the Miss America pageant, men would just say, you guys are too ugly to compete. When women would tell their boyfriends and husbands, like, hey, I actually don't feel comfortable with you like jerking off to other women while we're dating, they would say like, well, you're just insecure, this is controlling, it's purely physical. Like, they were the first to adopt the utmost amount of levity when it came to sex work and engaging with it, and just tell their girlfriends that it's meaningless, it's just purely physical, and that they're overthinking it. But as soon as women started turning like 7 figures off of OnlyFans and going on podcasts and bragging about like all the rappers in their DMs, all the fact that they're buying houses off of it, now men have this like victim mindset. Now they're talking about like the erosion of the of the social fabric, and how it's like, this is like the fall of the West and stuff. And I just think it's interesting because it was literally a rite of passage for so many men. Like, days before you get married, you go see a stripper, right? So I would agree that it's 100% like a financial envy for why they're moralizing women profiting off of their erotic power.
And a real shift in control. Yeah, that's a super interesting point. And you do raise a point that I think is really important here, is that feminists have been talking about this forever. I don't think there has been the same lens and the same spotlight put on the male perspective on all of this and what is going on for masculinity at this juncture in history and before. And I think that's a point that is really interesting to make. The next question I need to put to the panel is whether OnlyFans and sites like it and sex work more broadly empower women or undermine them. I feel we've sort of touched on it a little bit, but Farha, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to expand on what you just said a moment ago on those sort of particular points, and maybe talk about what women are saying and feeling within the sort of the OnlyFans community. How are they feeling empowered? Are they feeling in reaction to this sort of outburst from men that they're sort of losing control of the situation? How are you feeling about it?
Well, I would just start by saying most women don't do OnlyFans as some like feminist or political statement, right? They're doing it for the money. I mean, yeah. I do it kind of as a mix. Like, I was already a content creator, and I do it because I personally like love the backlash from it. I love defending it. I think it's really fun and stuff.
I can see that.
Yeah. So I do it partly for political reasons. As for whether they feel empowered by it, I don't know. I know they get like insulted all day, especially the girls I know in OnlyFans, because they go on podcasts and just get insulted all day. So I don't know how empowered they're feeling about it. I think they're getting told all the time that no one will ever marry you, and you're going to die alone. So I don't know if empowerment's like the common thread that I hear from OnlyFans girls. And also, I mean, the average OnlyFans girl makes like $100, right? So I'm not going to glamorize it and say just because women like me who are already content creators are able to cash out a bit better from it, that like it's some super glamorous, successful form of work.
But you're coming at it from a feminist kind of cultural critic perspective. If you were to pan out, what's your take?
Can you?
So you're not just coming at it from an OnlyFans performer or participant, you're coming at it from a feminist perspective. So what is your take? Does it empower women more broadly or not?
I guess I just don't gauge it by empowerment or not, I don't think it's setting women back or anything like that. I think people are really quick to criticize OnlyFans girls or girls who leverage their sexuality by saying, you're setting women back, we've come so far, and, you're making us look bad. And I don't agree with that. I don't think women's sexual behavior has anything to do with whether men see women as sexual objects or not. I mean, it's not a coincidence that in regions where they have not undergone a sexual revolution, you have like marital rape incidences as high as 70%, right? So clearly there's no correlation between whether women are voluntarily sexualizing themselves and whether they're being sexualized against their own will and seen as sexual instruments.
But I guess, yeah, to the extent that women are now earning a lot more money, some women are earning a lot more money, you could say that at least it does change the playing field a bit. What about you, Minna? What do you feel about that point? Do sex sites like OnlyFans set the feminist movement backwards, or are they actually empowering women in a different way?
I would have to go back again to this thing about choice. And I think it's maybe a bit boring and nuanced, but it's really the question that feminists at least have to grapple with. And I thought it would be interesting, like, I wonder if if there could be a kind of feminist movement within the OnlyFans space. Of course, that's not what the majority of women are drawn to there, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be. Like, that would be interesting, right? And where there is a space for this conversation around choice, because OnlyFans, of course, it exists in this patriarchal world. It is a tool that is, I believe, it is owned by a man who doesn't seem to be super progressive. The main consumers of it are men. So, of course, in itself, it is not a feminist beacon by any stretch of the imagination. But of course, there are many women who can use the platform in ways that do feel empowering to them, or as Farha keeps pointing out, like, it doesn't even have to be about empowerment. Maybe there's other motivations, such as to take the piss out of people who have issues with it, right? But it is very much then part of a choice feminist discussion. And I insist for my work that, I come from a more decolonial, non-dualist, pluralist kind of feminism in which these questions about choice need to be complicated, because for a lot of women, a platform like OnlyFans contributes to the further sexualization of women, and that really takes us back.
Yeah, so the impact is broader than just that particular microcosm. There's the wind.
I'd like to hop in there.
Yeah, no, please do.
I mean, one way of looking at choice is look at what women choose to do. And we now have vast amounts of new recent social science evidence on who chooses to do sex work. Students in higher education choose to earn a lot of money doing something which for them is really very novel, because they're quite new to the sex activity area, and therefore it's quite amusing as well as very well paid hobby entertainment for some students. College students are doing extremely well, and one particular avenue is the websites for sugar daddies and sugar babies, and women who are attractive and personable college students are finding themselves in long-term sexual relationships with men they know well, who become serious friends, who then become mentors to them in their future occupational career aspirations, as well as providing sexual entertainment, sexual activities at times. And they all bargain individually for what they do and don't want to do. They're making a choice. They choose their customers, and their customers obviously choose them as well. And this has become, I don't know about other countries, but in Britain, this has become quite an important thing for college students, and in America as well, it's quite important. In the cities, it has to be in the cities, because in the cities you can do all sorts of things anonymously without telling your friends or family or anybody else, and you can do it just for a few years and then stop. And sex work is something, again, because of the internet, you can get into it on the internet and then come out and stop, and nobody needs to know. I mean, this is a new thing that's available to women, and that women are choosing to avail themselves of these opportunities.
Well, yes,
They're
but that's set in a context where young women who are trying to get entry-level jobs are notoriously paid less than men. And so is it a choice when the financial opportunities are not on an even keel?
Well, I don't know about you, but in Britain, in Britain, entry-level jobs, women very often are paid marginally tiny amount less than men for the same jobs. But overall, the national statistics show that women, young women in London, black women are earning more money than white women, and that women generally are earning more money than men. And that's partly to do with the jobs they go into and this, that, and the other, and what ages they go in. It's simply no longer true that women can say, oh, women are always paid less, so they're forced to go into sex work. That just isn't the case anymore.
Did you want to respond to that?
Yes, I think what I mean when I say we need to complicate choice, I want to sort of use this example of marriage, which you haven't touched on, but Farha mentioned, as another kind of form of exploitation of women in patriarchy. Would you agree that as feminists, it has been right for us for a very long time to examine, criticize, analyze the institution of marriage? Which I think, most of us would say yes, because that's something that feminists have been doing so that women can have more clarity about the choices they make regarding marriage. Somehow, when it comes to sex work, if you're saying that, yes, this is something that these young women are choosing, why should we not apply that same exploration or analysis of the choices in that case? Because what I'm saying is that both institutions and many others are a way of the patriarchy controlling women, forcing us into the Madonna whore complex and so on. And we should be questioning, in the same way that feminists have been questioning the marriage institution, we should also be questioning the sex work institution.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.